been all around the world and he's got a globe tooth. It must be Mr. Worldwide. A pitbull mosasaur joke. See, this is the kind of things that keeps me single. As it going everybody, short mosasaur, Prince Steel, Tethyosaurus, Yorkshire, and it's another whammon out there, isn't it? It's another whammon out there. I'm absolutely roasting and boiling. In fact, temperature might be a factor in this video later on, but I thought I'd do a bit of a speculation video. So I want to talk about a particular mosasaur that we haven't found in Europe, to my knowledge. It'd be great if this video went out or wrong straight away, straight out the gate. Then that joke from earlier, that actually makes sense. Anyways, let's crack on. So as you can tell by this wonderful art piece from Dan Varno, I mean, no bilobic tail up there, but you know, it is what it is. But we're going to talk about Globidens, the crusher mosasaur, probably the most famous crusher mosasaur there is out there. So the rundown in the old nutcracker here is, is a Globidensini mosasaurine mosasaurid. Confusing, I know, but lived from late Cretaceous, so about 84.9 to 66 million years ago. Up to 6 meters long and some of the largest species, characterized by a really robust skull, very, very robust skull. In fact, Globidens is, to my knowledge, one of the only mosasaurs that either has rudimentary or complete absence of pterygoid teeth. So no, you know, no, that special, you know, none of that, none of those teeth on the mouth roof, none of that at all. So this is classified as a durophagus animal, so that basically meant that it had adaptations for crushing up hard-bodied prey like oysters, ammonites, lobsters, you know, anything that's got an hard shell, anything. I've got a soft shell, me. I don't think I have, but anyways, because of this meant that this animal had an akinetic skull. That means that the skull bones would not move when pressure was applied via the jaw muscles. Kinetic skulls are actually quite characteristic in most mosasaurs, but a lot of large, robust species do actually lose it through their evolution. But a bit of a brief history on this genus. So the first Globidens specimen was actually recovered in Alabama, but with no precise location. But it was later described in 1912 by Gilmore, who was actually famous for also sorting out Allosaurus taxonomy back in the day. But it was based on a partial skull with some fragmentary postcranial material, and named it Globidens alabamarensis. I mean, it makes sense, comes from Alabama, sweet home Alabama and all that. I hope your two aren't related. Ugh. Then in 1975, Russell actually described a new species of Globidens, Globidens dakotensis. I wonder where that's from. But anyways, for a long time, this specimen actually gave us a better idea of Globidens until we started getting material out of North Africa. That's right, we started actually getting material of Globidens phosphaticus from Angola and Morocco. First it started off as just teeth, but then we actually got a partial skeleton with really good material, really good material. Then a specimen described in a 2007 paper from the Pierre Shale in Big Bend, South Dakota, actually showed the paleobiology and the diet of these animals, with the stomach contents actually containing oysters. So they've got muscles in it, well, not them kind of muscles, but you know what I'm on about, you know, the muscles you crack open and go, I don't, because they taste horrible. But the morphology of the teeth made sense with the muscles, so therefore we verifiably said this animal's a crusher. And most recently we've had in 2019 the description of Globidens simplex, which was another Moroccan species, and this further helped us understand the paleobiology of this animal. And from what we know from all this material, that Globidens was a pretty hefty sized mosasaur with a robust jaw, robust teeth, and probably swam along the bottom just above the substrate looking for any hard shell prey, or maybe even sifting out the sand looking for buried hard shell prey. So, you know, each their own. This fella likes crunchy stuff, I don't. So the areas where Globidens is actually found is quite a decent list, to be fair. So you've got the United States, so mainly the northern and southern areas, well basically the whole United States then. You've got South America, you've got Morocco, you've got Angola, you've even got other parts from Africa that weren't clearly listed when I was looking for it, and Syria, so there's quite a nice distribution there. Now, there's probably thinking, well, I've actually seen that Globidens is actually listed from Europe anyways. Well, that was because of a 2005 paper that actually described Globidens phosphaticus based off of a series of teeth, as well as documenting the occurrence of Coryodens belgicus and Prognathodon curii. Flacititan curii. Flacititan. But this paper by Bardet et al. 2005 actually listed that Globidens was found in southern Belgium. Now what's going on there? Well, simple enough, this is actually a taxonomic and systematic holdover from when Coryodens Basically, that species of Globidens, the smaller crusher that might be or might not be closely related to, Globidens. Hopefully not as closely related as specimens of Globidens alabamensis. But anyways, I'm going off topic. This is actually a holdover from when Globidens frasei, what I'm going to call it, was actually Globidens frasei back in the day. So Globidens is not found in Europe. But here's why I think it could be. I say it could be because there could be some factors in there that are actually holding Globidens back from being found in Europe. Now, first of all, during the end of the Maastrichtian, and actually towards the start and the end, there was cooling, particularly in Denmark in Europe. So the seas might not have been as hot as, say, Morocco, Angola, or even the southern parts of the United States. So maybe Globidens favoured warmer waters. However, a 2018 paper actually demonstrated that sea surface temperatures around that time were actually around about 24 to 30 degrees, so a decent temperature for some animals. I'd imagine this is quite decent for mosasaurs, particularly the fact that Europe was home to quite large mosasaurs like Hanosaurus and Mosasaurus. However, in a figure demonstrated in Barney et al. 2015, we actually get an idea that there's a limited lots of shallow environments in Europe, and Globidens, being a shell crusher and a shell feeder, must have hung around in shallow environments in order to, well, go looking for these shelled creatures. But then this brings up an interesting problem. Globidens, which probably fed in the same environments and fed probably in a very similar way, is found in Europe, Africa and North America. So why couldn't the big crusher go there? I think you're just making up excuses, sunshine. And again, there are other large genera of mosasaurs like Mosasaurus, Hanosaurus, Velocititan, and there's even smaller mosasaurs like Haliosaurus that are found all across Europe, Africa and America. So they're distributed quite widely, bearing in mind they fed on different food sources, so probably could adapt to different levels in the water. So some could probably favour in shallow and deep water, where Globidens may have not been able to, fare so well in shallow water. I ain't got a clue, but anyway, so that's one factor gone. Well, there's a couple of factors actually. But the other factor is food. And, well, inner ceramids, which were very large bivalves, so some of these could get to a metre across. They were big shellfish. But these were probably some of the primary food sources of Globidens. And, well, they were present and diverse in Europe at the time. So again, hasn't got an excuse. And, well, invertebrates as a whole in Europe were diverse at the time. You've got lobsters, ammonites, you've got the whole lot there. All the crushy bits, they're all there. So I don't know what Globidens is playing at. Now, the question of competition comes up. Are there any crushers that live in Europe? And, well, there's Globidens and probably Tychodus. But, Globidens is the crusher. He's about 6 metre. He's a big lad. He's going to muscle in and take whatever he wants. Or simply, we have not found Globidens in Europe yet. Because, as we all know, the fossil record is very biased. If you don't die and end up being buried in silt or very, very fine material very quickly, the chance of you being preserved is next to naught. As in, we've found so very little in every fossil formation that the true diversity of those fossil formations is probably 10, 15 times greater than what we've figured. Yeah, that's why we're finding new species in formations we've been digging for about 200 years all the time. And I reckon that's the same with Globidens. So Globidens europaeus, which one would call it, I bet it's out there. But anyways, I thought this was an interesting speculation video. I thought you guys might like it. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you later. Ta-da. Bye.